Bruised, battered, defeated. Iowa falls to Minnesota 12-10 tonight. Cooper DeJean's punt return was taken off the board. We explain it and try to figure things out. What's next for the Hawkeyes today? Locked on Hawkeyes.
You are Locked On Hawkeyes, your daily podcast on the Iowa Hawkeyes. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
I'm Trent Condon, and this is the Locked On Hawkeyes podcast. Thanks for making Locked On Hawkeyes your first listen every day. We're available wherever you get your podcasts, and you can also find us on YouTube. Hit that subscribe button, 5-star reviews. That's what we're looking for. Help us out and help get in front of more Hawkeye fans. Well, as you can tell by my voice, it was a long day in Kinnick Stadium today. A lot of yelling, a lot of trying to help out that defense and yelling at the offense as Iowa falls 12-10, obviously the big storyline late in the football game with inside of 2 minutes to play. Iowa makes the right decision. They punt the ball back to Minnesota. They get the 3-0. PJ Fleck and his idiotic tendencies helps Iowa out with a second down pass call. Incomplete there, incomplete on third down. Iowa gets the ball back. And it didn't matter because Cooper DeJean runs it back for a touchdown. And we're all celebrating and having a great time until the penalty that will go down in infamy in Iowa lore, the call on the fair catch signal that wasn't. So a lot of different directions to go here. And for anybody that's listened to me for any amount of time, you know that I am not a big blame the officials kind of person. I think it's a loser mentality. I think it's an easy way out. I believe that it is sometimes trying to find justification for things that aren't there. And this isn't to say that Iowa played a great football game, because they didn't, certainly not offensively, that Iowa deserved to win the football game, because you can definitely make an argument against them. What you do have here is a guy making a play against a special teams unit in Minnesota. This is what, not coercing. This was not a play that changed the impact of the game in the way that the special teams from Minnesota played. This was an officiating crew making a call that impacted the game and ultimately lost the game for Iowa. And it sucks. It sucks for Cooper DeJean. It sucks for this team. It sucks for this fan base and what we talked about and the excitement that we had this week, knowing that this is realistically Iowa's last chance of playing in a Big Ten title game in a long time. The new system with 18 teams in the Big Ten, top 2 qualified, no more divisions. The likelihood that we're going to see Iowa back in a Big Ten championship game in the semi-near future is incredibly low. 5, 8, 10 years, whatever you're talking about, the chances of finishing in the top 2 in the Big Ten, it's just not likely. And certainly not likely with this ineptitude that we see offensively. And I think that's where a lot of the frustration lies. So my biggest problem with it was on the play. Cooper DeJean going after the football. He is pointing at the football. And at the same time, he is telling his gunners, get away from the ball. It's something that helped the snowball continue down the hill in the game against Penn State. And it's what everybody is taught. And apparently, that is illegal. Because once you do that, once you're waving your arms and telling people to get away from the football, the play is dead. That is considered, though not a fair catch with the letter of the law, putting your hand over your head, wave it 2 times, that's a fair catch. That is considered an illegal fair catch signal. And the play is dead. That's not what was happening here, though. That's not what this was. And not only that, this is something that is very rarely called. There were 2 instances I saw today in college football that didn't happen. That the exact same play happened. In fact, the punt returner was even more prominently waving his arms, and there was no call. To the letter of the law, the call was right. But there's so much ambiguity. There's so much gray area in this. And for replay officials to make that call when it wasn't made on the field. If you saw that, the 8 officials on the field saw that, blew it dead, absolutely, but they didn't. And to go back And to change it because of instant replay, it just doesn't sit right. Now, Iowa has nobody to blame but themselves. Kirk Ferentz has nobody to blame but himself. He put his idiot son in charge of this offense. It has cratered over the last 3 years. It has been brutal. 2 yards of offense in the second half. 2 yards of offense in the second half. Unthinkable. Impossible. Except for that bag of buffoon over there and what he continues to trot out there. You put Deacon Hill out there. That's what they believe is their best option. Well, that's a problem on you. That is on you, Kirk Ferentz. That's on you, Brian Ferentz. That's on you. If you went into a season and this is the best you can do for a backup, that's coaching malpractice. He's awful. And Deacon's one heck of a nice kid. He was on his way to Fordham for a reason. He's not a very talented quarterback. He's got a strong arm. That's it. Absolutely no accuracy. And here Iowa is. And an offense that is absolutely stuck in quicksand with no chance of getting out of it. They can't run the football. They can't throw the football. They can punt the football. That's what this offense is. 2 yards of offense in the second half. The punt return, it was frustrating. Getting back from Iowa City, I'm flipping on the podcast. I'm still upset about it. I'm still frustrated by it, but I understand. Was it reviewable? Now, afterwards, Scott Docterman of The Athletic, he was the pool reporter. He was able to ask the official and says that it is. As I'm looking through, this is a judgment call. That's what we're talking about here. And that's maybe the part of it that isn't sitting well with me. If it's something that is clear as day, and what they were looking at initially, was he in or out of bounds? Of course, you review that. Did the guy make a catch? Yes, you review that. But you can't go back and see if there's a holding. You can't go back and see if there was a block in the back. And in this one, this is a judgment call. And yet they made the call. They changed the call on the field. A judgment call. That's what I have a problem with. I get it. To the letter of the law, yes. The call was made correctly by the referees. But in the moment, at the time, the way the game played out, it didn't feel right. Here we are. Iowa 6-2. They got question marks all over the place, and they got a bye week in front of them. We'll talk more about this football game and where Iowa goes from here as we continue on the Locked On Hawkeyes podcast. Thanks for making Locked On Hawkeyes your first listen every day. We continue with a look towards what's happening after the bye for the Hawkeyes coming up here on Locked On Hawkeyes. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel Sportsbook. Snap into action this NFL season with FanDuel. It's America's #1 sportsbook. Right now, new customers get $200 in bonus bets guaranteed when you place a $5 bet. That's $200 in bonus bets, win or lose. If you've been thinking about joining FanDuel, there's no better time to get in on the action. Yep, it's super easy to use. A wide range of betting options, including spreads, player props. They got over-unders, a whole lot more. You like to play in the futures market, they got you covered there. Visit FanDuel.com/LockedOn. That's where you want to go right now to get ready for NFL Sunday. Again, that is FanDuel.com/LockedOn. FanDuel, official partner of the NFL. Trent Condon back with you once again on the Locked On Hawkeyes podcast. Thanks for making Locked On Hawkeyes your first listen every day. All right. So frustrated, mad. This is the rivalry game that matters to me. It's not the idiots in Ames. It's not the dorks in Madison. It's not the buffoons in Champaign. For me, this is my rivalry game because of where I grew up, family connections, friend connections up in Minneapolis. And that's why this probably even stings even more for me. To lose in that fashion, it sucked. To lose in a day where early on, I will move the football. They scored a touchdown offensively. Yeah, that's something to be celebrated. That's where we are at this point in time. You finish the game with 9 first downs, 4 of 15 on third down, 127 yards of total offense, 11 rushing yards, 116 in pass yards. You know, that over-under prop that was out there from Gametime was 99.5. So Deacon Hill went over that. But I didn't even the touchdown drive. That was aided by a pass interference, a personal foul, a defensive offsides. There are 4 penalties on the drive. How can this be happening? How can Iowa be in this spot? And how can Iowa have nobody else that they can turn to? I've heard a lot of people clamoring for Joe Labus. And we talked earlier this week about Kirk Ferentz dancing on the grave of Alex Padilla and looking down and saying, well, we have this right. You guys are in practice. We know. You guys don't know. Well, it doesn't take a rocket scientist. It doesn't take Vince Lombardi to say that Deacon Hill's not the guy. And if he's the best of your options, you got big trouble. Look, you're still playing for a lot. You still have a chance to win the Big Ten West, get to a championship game, have a 10-win season, have all those things. Those things are all still on the board for this Iowa football team. It's all out there. However, with Deacon Hill, there's no path forward. There's no major improvement that's going to happen here. When a quarterback is this inaccurate, there's not a sudden change. No amount of reps this year is going to change that. And Joe Labus, if you don't believe he's the guy, so be it. But it just brought in Marco Lainez. Now, everything that I've heard and seen about Marco Lainez shows that he's obviously not ready. But can it be worse than this? And if it's worse than this, that's another recruiting miss. If you bring in a scholarship quarterback that has some good offers, and if he can't beat what they're seeing right now at the quarterback position, you missed again. And we're talking about now a half decade of failures in the recruiting realm at the quarterback position. You missed on Spencer Petras. You missed on Alex Padilla. You missed on Joe Labus. You missed on Carson May. Now you missed on Marco Lainez. How long do we have to go here? You can't keep trotting Deacon Hill out there, and especially when he's turning the football over. An interception after the punt return was negated. Third down play. He's sacked. He's fumbled a couple of times. That was another thing. Well, Kirk says he didn't know what the numbers were. Oh, but I do know he didn't turn it over. That was the other thing against Wisconsin. He had an interception that was dropped by the defensive lineman, and Mason Richmond made a great play to get it out of the defensive lineman's hands. He had another ball. He almost fumbled away that game against Wisconsin last week. Don't act like he's playing this clean game. Some kind of perfect non-turnover quarterback. Come on. Kirk, give your head a shake here. It just frustration. That's where we are. Very frustrating in a winnable game, and a game where certainly the Gophers did not play very well. Kalkmanis skipping balls in front of receivers. He's 10-25. The running game for them was better than Iowa's, but it certainly wasn't great. This was a winnable football game. You let this one get away. And seeing that idiot Phil Fleck on the sidelines dancing around, leading his team out on the field and leading them back in, boy, he's a bothersome individual. Look, I'm fired up. I'm so disappointed in this one. I'm disappointed that I was in this spot. I'm disappointed that this offense still looks like absolute dog crap and nothing's been done to change it in 3 years. I'm disappointed in Kirk to not be able to see the forest through the trees and not understand that this was not going to work. And though they worked to evolve and change the run game, it's still not good enough. The passing concept is outdated. And here we are. And a team that, even with all their deficiencies, should still be the runaway favorite in the Big Ten West. And he let an average Minnesota team come in and take the pig away. It sucks. This one kind of sucked. Therapeutic, though. Hit me up in the comment section. We'll be back with you on Monday morning with a look back at what we saw. I'll look at the game again. Like I said, I don't like to blame officials. That's not what I like to do. This one stung. Afterwards, I was probably a little more reactionary than I should have been. Yeah, that's going to happen. I need to get the voice ready. Got to get things healed up. A lot of hollering and Kinnick. Great day. Wonderful day. Beautiful fall weather. Had a little bit of a breeze. Couple of beers, hanging out with friends. Go to the game. Game I love. And then it ends like that. That's where we are. Again, we'll be back with you on Monday. Thanks for hanging out with us here for a little bit. Instant reaction podcast here on Locked On Hawkeyes. We're with you every day on the Locked On Network, your team every day. That's what we do. We'll be back with you again Monday morning. Until then, we'll talk to you soon, and go Hawks.